Hi viewers, another episode of Guest with Nazir. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Today we are honored that we have special guest MAREK HANDZEL. He is editor of Leeds and Yorkshire Lawyer magazine, and he has also responsibilities as a freelance journalist. Welcome, MAREK.
Thanks for having me, Mohammed. I'm pleased to be here.
Please tell our viewers about your childhood and your early education.
Sure. So I was born in London in the 70s, 1976, and brought up there, and I was educated in the local primary school near where we lived, St George's, and in northwest London, in Wembley, sort of Harrow area. I then went to a school called St Benedict's, further into West London and Ealing until I was 16. And then went to a school called Cardinal Vaughan where I did my A-levels. So yeah, I had a great childhood, loved going to school, played a bit of rugby. That was one of the sports I loved playing, until I got an injury in my neck actually. I was about 14 or 15 and I was a prop at the time, and the opposition player sort of pulled down really hard on my neck and gave me a real scar. And well, he kind of pulled my muscle and it really hurt for ages, and it really put me off really going into hard contact after that. So my rugby career sort of tapered off after that. But yeah, no, it's all in London. So I was taking the tube and or the bike or the bus to school, and then after that I went to university in Exeter.
London is a historical city, and there are a lot of powerful personalities have been grown up there. At that time, do you have any ideal in your mind that you are going to follow this personality or this charisma personality?
In terms of ones based in London, I'm not so sure. Not so sure. I like most kids, I had sort of sporting icons. So I support Queen's Park Rangers mainly because my father does. He came over to England in the early 70s and lived in Shepherd's Bush, which is where QPR are based, Queen's Park Rangers. And we used to go to their football matches. So my icons were sort of some of the players that played around in the 80s for Queen's Park Rangers, especially one player called Roy Wegerle.
And at what stage you decided to pursue the media career or this editing career?
Yeah, so I'd always really been interested in writing and being a journalist from quite a young age. One of my heroes was an American journalist called Hunter S. Thompson, who invented gonzo journalism, for those of your viewers who don't know, which is a type of journalism where you immerse yourself into the story and you almost become part of the story as well. He was quite a sort of left field journalist. He wasn't a sort of standard suit and tie guy. And he's written quite a few famous books, and one of them was made into a movie by Johnny Depp called Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Sorry, Johnny Depp starred in the movie, he didn't make it. So he was sort of my hero, and I read a lot of his books, but it wasn't until my mid-20s that I sort of went into journalism. So I was teaching English in Poland in a private school there, where I met my wife actually, who's from Scarborough, from North Yorkshire, which is why I've ended up here. But that's a long story. But anyway, so I came back from teaching English and I did a postgraduate journalism course in London.
So how many years you stayed there in Poland?
I was in Poland for 2 years. First year I was in a small town called Radom, which is about 100 miles south of Warsaw. And then my second year I was in Warsaw. Yeah, it was great. I met some great people and really enjoyed it.
So because our viewers are a lot of young enthusiastic students. So what is your view about the career in journalism?
Well, I'd say if you want to be if you want to make riches, be rich and stuff like that, then maybe journalism isn't the path for you. But I'd recommend it to anybody who is not sort of money focused. It's a fantastic career in any sphere that you go into. I mean, I'm very specific in terms of magazine, trade, business to business journalism, but broadcasting, nationals, local radio, local newspapers. It's an absolutely fantastic, varied career. You can get to meet so many people. You can get to do so many fantastic things, like sit down here and speak to you, Mohammed. and you can also make a difference to people's lives, especially if you're a journalist on a local or national paper or in the radio or TV. You can break stories that are important to people. Just think of some of the major stories that have broken in the last few years. The MP scandal in terms of expenses, the massive paedophile rings that we found, and in terms of MPs and what have you. These are massive stories that wouldn't have been broken if we didn't have a free press, and journalists who were dedicated to their craft and wanted to get the truth out to the public. So it's a massive responsibility as well, and an honour to be a journalist in that kind of position.
Can we say that, like judiciary, the media is also a press review power? So they can review any decision made by administrative authorities, so they can criticize it in the media.
Absolutely, yeah. And nowadays the great thing is that with the internet and far more interaction, with TV and radio, nowadays it's not just the journalists, it's the public. The informed public and the people who are reading the stories, listening to the stories, watching the stories. They can also get involved in the discussion, and they can also help influence the story in a way.
So what is your views about especially social media at the moment? Because everybody has a smartphone in their hand, and they can take a picture or they can share a video. So how it is changing the profession in journalism?
Well, for me, from a purely day-to-day selfish point of view, for example, Twitter is a fantastic news source for me. So I follow Twitter in sort of a number of guises, so in my personal Twitter account, but also with Leeds and Yorkshire Lawyer, and also Claims Media, another website and magazine that I edit. I follow the big personalities, the big firms, the big players, and I can get the news from there first rather than any other avenue or source. So for me, from a personal point of view, it's absolutely fantastic. It makes my job a lot easier, actually.
So as editor, how you see your magazine? Who is your main readers of this Leeds and Yorkshire Lawyers magazine? Yeah,
sure. So Leeds and Yorkshire Lawyer is published by Barker Brooks Communications. So we're a publishing house based in North Yorkshire, just outside Wetherby, in a place called Kirk Deaton. And Leeds and Yorkshire Lawyer is a magazine that's published in conjunction with the Leeds Law Society. But it's not just Leeds-centric, so it goes out to everybody, down here in Sheffield and up to people in Hull and further afield. And the readers are predominantly solicitors and barristers, so the legal community. We do have some readers who are, for example, in-house lawyers, counsel at big companies and what have you. But most predominantly the readership is from the legal community.
Have you ever thought about to increase the readership of this magazine? Because businesses, like small businesses, they can have access to it, and they could be benefited from especially legal updates?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a good idea. It's only one that you mentioned to me earlier today, Mohammed, but I hadn't thought about it before. It's certainly something I'd put to the publishers, the guys who run things at the top. But I think extending it out would be a great idea, just to let people know what's happening in the legal community, because I think lawyers in general, have a bad press. I mean, all you have to do is look at the recent things with legal aid cuts that have taken place, all the legal aid cuts that the government has introduced, and a lot of the rhetoric in some of the mainstream press, if you like, has been sort of very over the top. Barristers earning millions, blah blah blah. Whereas we know that lots of juniors, criminal juniors, hardly earn much at all, in the grand scheme of things. So I think it would be a great idea to get the message out, and not just to businesses, but to other readers as well.
So in freelance writing, so what is your main area of subjects you focus on?
So I used to edit a magazine in London called Pensions Age in the city, and I freelance about pensions mainly and investment in pensions. So it's the management of pension schemes, both public and private, in the UK. I've written a bit about European pensions as well, so the Dutch markets and other areas, but I'm mostly UK focused.
If I'll ask you to pick up one country you think that their pension system is ideal, I'm talking about EU, within the Europe. So which country is going in the best way?
It's a really good question. I don't think there's any country that's doing anything perfectly in terms of pensions. But traditionally, and probably still true now, that the Netherlands, is the nation that has the best pension system at the moment. So, for example, they have massive things called collective DC schemes, for want of a better phrase, where a lot of industries, a lot of companies in one industry, they come together and all their workers are in one pension scheme, essentially. So this gives the pension scheme much better buying power when it comes to negotiating with investment managers and other service providers. And it also gives them a way to unlock extra expertise, so they can attract people who know what they're talking about and doing to come and run their pension scheme, essentially.
In this country, a lot of pension schemes, when they take the people's money, they invest into the properties. So why not people buy property themselves and invest, and they can at least look after the property? So what is the difference? Why a pension fund will buy a property for you and they look after for this? So why not individual himself or a group of people, they can do themselves? So is there any special reason for that?
Well, I think the main reason with pensions is at the moment still, thankfully, that you still get the tax breaks. So when you're paying in, you're getting that tax break. So that's the main attraction of a pension scheme at the moment. So in terms of buying a property, if you're lucky enough to be a high enough earner or have assets or other means to be able to buy some property, that's obviously a great investment. Well, usually, or has been. I'm not sure when the next housing crisis or property price crisis will be, but in terms of swapping a pension for a property fund, I would always say stay in a pension. You've got compound interest, so you keep building on your money, you leave it there, you don't touch it, and these days the industry is getting a lot better. The pensions industry is getting a lot better in terms of being able to protect your money towards your retirement date, making the most of it. And then nowadays you don't have to buy an annuity anymore, so you're not locked into a certain a pension for the rest of your life. It's much more fluid, it's much more flexible. So I would always say go for a pension, invest as much as you can. If you haven't got a pension yet, you should get one.
And in terms of newly qualified journalists, do you offer any placements in your magazine? Or
absolutely, 100%. We've got offices in Kirkdeaton, and anybody who wants to apply for a bit of work experience, whether it's for a week or a month or even longer, or would like to try their hand at writing some features for us or anything, I welcome that. For me, it's really important to give opportunities to wannabe journalists. Yeah, absolutely, because that's the way that I started as well. So you have to give something back, and also it helps me because I run a skeleton staff, if you like. It's just me. I'm not much of a skeleton, I know, but
have you ever thought that your magazine should be on social media like Facebook, so then non-lawyers or non-professional or lay public could get the benefit of the knowledge and the education you are providing to the fellow professionals or to the lawyers?
I think that's a really good idea, Mohammed. That's another bonus for me coming on this show and getting these great ideas from you. Yeah, definitely. I mean, we traditionally trade and business-to-business magazines, which is where I'd classify where we sort of operate. We've been very focused just on the industry and that you write about. So that in my case, the legal community for Leeds and Yorkshire Lawyer. But I think that would be that's probably something to think about. Yeah, certainly. I think. I'm not sure how many likes or followers we'd get, but as long as we try, then you can only find out if you try, don't you? So yeah, I think it's a great idea.
And plus, point is that because printing paper, you can also save the environment.
Yes. But as you know, lawyers love paper and they love to have things on their desks. So at the moment, we're still printing the magazine. It's actually gone to a bit of a smaller size.
You mentioned paper on the table. It means it's a reminder for them that this is the next activity they have to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And in some ways, it's we rely a lot on income from revenue from advertisers and sponsors, who place their advertisements in the magazine, and they also like to have a printed copy as well. So I don't think print's dead just yet, especially not for lawyers anyway.
Any message you want to give to the students who are pursuing their career in the journalism?
Yeah. Well, first thing I'd say is just do what you want to do. So this would apply to everything. If you want to be a skateboarder, you need to skateboard every day. If you want to be a journalist, you should write every day. So do that perhaps in a blog or just trying to get as much work experience as you can. That's the only real way to do it. I know it can be tricky to get work placements or what have you, but these days we have the internet. You can, if there's a subject you love, for example, going back to the skateboard analogy, if you like skateboarding, just start writing a blog about skateboarding. I know there's probably a million of them already, but that's not to say that yours wouldn't pick up more readership. If you're writing something from a different angle, or you manage to interview a famous skateboarder, then that's another avenue. And excuse me, with social media these days, if you manage to get a great story that's picked up by other people, that will get noticed by other news outlets, and then suddenly you've got a bit of a ball rolling. So these days you don't have to think, I have to get a job straight away with a local newspaper or a magazine. You've got the internet. The world's your oyster now as a journalist, especially someone up and coming.
So in terms of publications, so how many copies do you publish every month or every week?
Yeah, sure. So we publish just shy of around 8,000 copies of Leeds Yorkshire Lawyer, but we estimate that about 21,000 people actually see the magazine. So it goes into a law firm's offices, and then it goes to one specific person, but then another 10 people around him or her will also get to see the magazine.
Any interesting feedback you want to share with our viewers about any article or anything you have done and you got interesting feedback from your readers?
Well, we always have. But one of the best ones is lawyers are quite nosy, I've found. So they like to know what everybody else is doing. So, as I'm sure a lot of other professions and industry sectors do as well. But they like to know who's moving where, who's doing what. And one thing I have noticed is that a lot more senior lawyers, or even partners in firms, are moving away from their big firms and setting up smaller niche firms. I've certainly seen this around Leeds, and this sort of drive towards niche firms, and that's received quite an interesting amount of feedback as well. And the other big thing for us is we also run, as a publisher, we run the Yorkshire Legal Awards, which are taking place this October in Leeds again. And we've had a record amount of entries for those awards again. So they've been a massive success, and we always get really positive feedback about that, and when we write about it in the magazine as well.
So who decides the winner and the losers, are who are the runners-up? Who's the deciding power?
For the Yorkshire Legal Awards, we have an independent set of judges. So this year, the judging panel was chaired by Marilyn Stowe, who's a very famous family lawyer who's been on TV a lot herself, actually, on ITV as a divorce expert, family law expert. She was the chair. This year she was joined by a barrister, an ex-judge, a professor from Sheffield Hallam University, actually, just down the road.
So in the panel you have some real judges also.
We do, yeah. So it's all a very independent process. So we have no influence. We can't. If the judges decide on something, then that's their decision. So. As publishers, we can't do anything about that. It's very important to protect the integrity of the awards.
What do you think the role of a writer or a journalist about the problems in society, especially social problems, social injustices? So have you ever thought about it, writing on this subject, or no?
I always think about writing about a number of subjects, when you have a moment to yourself to be able to do that. I must say it's hard these days because I'm very focused on the day job and my freelance work. But I think in terms of social injustice, one of the things that I picked up in the pensions and investments world was the financial crisis and the role that was played in banks, in particular our financial system. And when I started reading up about it, I was quite shocked to find out that this boom and bust cycle that every developed nation has, that Gordon Brown famously talked about getting rid of, which was a physical impossibility under our financial monetary system. When I sort of delved into it and the history of it, I was really surprised about how many recessions they've been in America and the UK and what have you. And I think there's a social injustice there in terms of how our financial system is structured. So that'll be something I'll be interested in writing about in the future.
Marek, thank you very much for joining me. Viewers, I hope you have enjoyed today's episode, and definitely in coming days, we will have more guests, more personalities. Keep watching Sheffield Live.